And welcome back, everyone. We, of course, have looked at a couple different things with animations, and I promised that we would come back and see how layer groups can affect these things when we start looking at how they affect our animations and also how it's going to feed into things with our sprite sheets. So to get started here, I went ahead and created a 64 by 64 image, and I said, let's go ahead and make something simple here today. We're going to go ahead and just make a face here. So let's just go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and make this quite large here just to start, so we can have something nice and solid to work with. And now let's just go ahead and decrease that, and let's just use our eraser tool, maybe a little bit more here. And let's actually just go ahead and erase the inside of this. So now we have a nice kind of frame of reference here that we can work with. I'll just clean that up a little bit. Pretty good, pretty good. I think everything's looking pretty awesome here. So we created a nice quick outline here with our brush and eraser tool. And this is, of course, giving me the basic structure that I'm going to need to create everything else. And so let's just go ahead and rename this as face structure, because then we're going to go ahead and make a simple face here. Now this, of course, can be used across multiple layers, multiple groups. And so what I can do is create my layer groups to start grouping different things together. So let's go ahead and click on the folder icon down here to make group 1. And I'm actually going to grab that face structure and drag it into group 1. So now if I open and close group 1, you can see that's inside here. And I'm going to go ahead and call this pose 1. And so that way I can think about this is my first pose. And let's go ahead and add another layer here. And we're going to rename this to eyes. And I'm just going to go ahead and let's give this guy some colored eyes today. Let's do some blue eyes. You can do your own color if you so wish. And let's go ahead and make those just a nice good size here. So 2 blue eyes as well. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. And so now I have 2 eyes here. But of course, they're like this. It doesn't look like they have much heart and soul into them. So I'm actually going to shrink this down a little bit, reset it back to black, and just add some black in here. That gives us just a little bit of character, a little bit of definition. And of course, we can play around with it how we want it to be. You know, if we want it to be looking more down, more centered, it's up to you how you want to do it. But I think right now, this is looking pretty good. So he's going to be looking right at us. All right. Let's go ahead and add another layer now. And I'm going to call this the eyebrows, because a face is much more expressive when you have eyebrows. And so I'm going to give them just for now, just some neutral eyebrows. Oh, that looks a little thick, so I maybe take those down just a little bit. And I'm just going to go ahead and draw some eyebrows here. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. There you go. So nothing too crazy. And we'll give them another layer. Call this nose. And I'm just going to go ahead and just draw him a quick nose. Again, nothing too crazy. Doesn't have to be the best looking nose of all time, but it just has to be there to exist. And maybe I'll just give him a little defining features there. Let's go ahead and give him a mouth, because it's not going to be a face without a mouth. And for now, we're going to start off with kind of a neutral face here. So he's just kind of looking at us pretty neutral. And now we can take this to the next level. What are the next steps that I can do from here? Well, if I wanted to animate this, maybe I want to make him smile. And so let's go ahead and just collapse this layer group here for a second. And I can actually just duplicate that whole group. And so now I'm going to call this pose 2. And now when I open that up, you will see that everything that I had in that layer is in there. And it allows me to effectively duplicate certain things without having to go through and do each layer individually. So now I can go ahead and target that mouth structure, and maybe I want to have him smile just a little bit. Maybe I'm just going to add just a little bit of a smile here. So I'm just going to go ahead and add another layer in. Oh, maybe not that much. Just to show he's trying to crack the smile just a little bit here. And let's duplicate that again for pose 3. And when I go to the mouth this time, maybe I want to say, you know, I want that to be even wider. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and use my shift key here to kind of come in and add different pieces. just to go ahead and add that in real nice. That looks pretty good. And I can use my eraser tool now. We got to bring that back down size to actually go ahead and open that up. So that way when I use my eraser, I'm actually going to be taking pieces out of here so that we can actually see the different layers of his mouth. Now notice it doesn't necessarily always work exactly because it's, again, using other pieces that are in here. So I have to hide those other layers here to make sure I get a nice, good, accurate view of what I want this to look like. Because as long as these are on, it might look like it's covering that whole thing up. So we're getting a nice smile going here. And let's go ahead and duplicate that group one more time. Let's do pose 4. And now we're going to make him really happy. So I'm going to, again, just use my brush tool just to extend this just a little bit wider. Notice I've hidden pose 3 so that I don't have to worry about that getting in the way. And I'm just going to go ahead and extend this down just a little bit here. And again, using our eraser tool, kind of clean things up a little bit. And if I really wanted to make this kind of pop out a little bit here, I have other things that I can do to add to my arsenal, such as maybe I want to adjust his eyebrows now. So maybe I say, you know what, those eyebrows are cool. Let's use our quick selection tool, grab that eyebrow. First, make sure we click on the eyebrows layer here. And maybe I want to angle those just a little bit. So I'm going to use a transformation here. I'm going to actually just rotate those a little bit. Because I rotate with those, obviously you can see it's too much. But I want to rotate them individually. Notice it did grab them as a group here. So if I bring this brush size down a little bit, I can grab the individual one. And now I can use my transformation tools. Make sure I have this on nearest neighbor. And if I rotate this in one direction versus the other, you will notice, of course, it does do some transformations here on that object where it might change them. And if we want this to stay the way we want, we do, of course, have those other transform options where we can rotate those images exactly. So what I want you to do now is go ahead, play around with this, create your own face, and then what we're going to do is animate that here in just a second. Alright, and so I decided I didn't want to rotate my eyebrows. I decided I just wanted to move them up a little bit just to show a little bit of expression there. So here's my my poses, one after the other. Alright, so now we have these created. Let's go ahead and just turn pose 1 on and create a frame animation. And one of the things you'll notice when I create the frame animation, I can so just pose 1 is on. I don't have to necessarily toggle each of these individual layer groups. Now, of course, when I start making my additional frames of animation, it's just like when we're working with the individual layers. I can go ahead and toggle those individual layer groups to go ahead and create what I'm looking for. So now when I go ahead and play that, you can see that we have this nice new animation that's playing out here. And of course, we could go here and tweak this and add other features to it. And what I'm going to challenge you today is go ahead and create your own face here. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the smiling emoji. Maybe you want to have something that's maybe a little more expressive. Or maybe instead of him smiling, I'm just going to stop him for a second here. Maybe you want him to have a ear-to-ear smile. Maybe you want to color the face a little bit as you're working on this. But again, let's go ahead and do that with the layer groups, because pretty soon we're going to be taking what we've done here and bringing it into a sprite sheet just like we have done over here.